I'd like to start out by asking you how you felt when you heard that you had been nominated to receive the Order of Lincoln Medallion.
Well, I was delighted because I know it's quite an honor. The Lincoln Academy is well known in the state, and then with the other laureates that were on the ticket, so to say, at the time, it was very interesting. Very interesting.
Well, you know at least one of them, Jack Greenberg.
Jack Greenberg, I know. Yeah.
He sends his best. We saw him this
well,
morning.
Good. Good.
Let's begin with your early life. Where are you originally from?
Grew up in Chicago, in South Shore area. Quite a while ago. City's changed a little since I lived there, but I did most of the things that other kids did at that point. Although I was fortunate, and I like to work, and it's been a hobby, and I started caddying early on, probably the age of 12, I guess, and that was at South Shore Country Club. And then from then on, I went to be the beach attendant and the starter, and I went all through college as a starter on the first tee at South Shore. So that was a lot of fun. Fun along with the work and little money that came with it.
Where did you go to college?
Loyola University.
Why am I not surprised? About what time was that?
1940. 40, that's correct. 1940.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you study at Loyola?
I was a philosophy major, believe it or not. I really intended to go into law, and that is a basic curriculum for a law degree. And then the war came along, and I never did get back to finish the degree, my degree in philosophy, but never did get back to law school, which has been just fine. Yeah.
What was the I don't want to say the culture of Loyola like, but what was the Loyola experience like in those days, and the values it imparted to you?
In the liberal arts curriculum and in all the curricula at Loyola, they're strong on ethics. They're strong on values. They had, of course, the accounting department and things like that was a different kind of value, but the liberal arts curriculum was languages and Latin and ethics and a lot of that kind of philosophy. And it was a good preparation for time to come, I think, for the later experience in life that I had.
You said the war interrupted your studies, as it did millions of
yes,
in your age.
Yeah.
Where did you end up at?
Went to the Navy. Had to go into the Navy to finish school. And from there, getting a degree, 2 weeks later, I was at Columbia as what they call a 90-day wonder in midshipman school. And then from then on, went out the Pacific on a destroyer. And that was about it until 1940. When was the war? 1946, I believe.
I was just visiting with my uncle last week in North Carolina. He was helping run amphibious ships up to the beach at places like Iwo Jima.
Tough duty.
Oh, it was awful.
Tough duty.
Yeah. But after the war, you didn't resume your education, as I...
No, I had finished school, and I went back into the business that I started in going through school, booking orchestras and acts and kind of producing shows around the city. And I did that for a couple of years, maybe a little more than a couple of years, but I know I was getting out of the business just as Nancy and I were going together. And so that was about 1947, so I did it for a couple of years. That was an interesting part of my life, yeah.
Who were some of the acts you booked?
Well, it was primarily orchestras, and then, of course, and good ones, Claude Thornhill and Count Basie and some of those from time to time, the big ones. But most of them were for smaller orchestras, lesser-known orchestra, I would say smaller, for proms and parties and dances, and then to produce shows, what we call club dates. You're probably familiar with club dates. Somebody wants a some entertainment at a dinner, you put it together. And that's what I did. It was interesting. Good business to be out of, though, for me.
What put you on the path to your work with American National Can?
After I got out of the entertainment business, I went to work for a glass manufacturing company, packaging business. And then through one or two iterations of that packaging business, I ended up with National Can, then it became American National Can. And that was a wonderful experience.
About what time was that?
It started with National Can about 1961, I believe.
Okay. And at that time, can you give us sort of a snapshot of what the company did? I know they were in packaging.
Yes. We had 14 plants. We're doing about $85 million worth of business. It was a rather small company then. And it grew. And we ended up with, as American National, at about $4.5 billion with 120 plants throughout the world. So it was an exciting time and a lot of fun.
You must have been going up the ranks through...
I came on as a sales manager, vice president of sales, and then executive vice president, senior vice president, then executive vice president, and then president, then chief executive officer, and then chairman.
When did you retire? Not that you appear to be retired at all.
Well, I believe I should know that date. I think 1987.
Okay.
87, 88. I stayed on as chairman of the executive committee until 2 years ago.
Now, what you just sketched out was a tremendous amount of growth from $85 million a year up to what you just mentioned. What were the key factors in that growth?
Hard work and a good team and some innovation. We really developed what they call the pop-top beverage can. We were the first ones in the market with it, and that led to some success, obviously, because everybody wanted it and we couldn't produce enough, which was a nice feeling for, not for long, 6 months or so. Then we developed the two-piece can that you have now. Everyone takes it for granted, but there used to be three pieces, a top and a bottom and a body. We developed a two-piece can and ran with it. It was a better product, simpler product, not as many variables when you don't have a seam and you have the, So we took that and grew significantly with it as the soft drink business was growing in cans. It was a bit simultaneous. Soft drinks were originally in three-piece, and we'd move them into two-piece, and so the industry was growing as we were able to grow. Then we took it overseas. We were the first ones overseas with the two-piece can. And that stimulated a lot of growth for us.
As you worked in that environment and went up the corporate ladder, what were the values that guided you along the way, and the ones that you wanted to make sure that were the hallmark of your business, the underpinnings of the way you were doing business with your suppliers and your customers?
Well, the hallmark was really service and quality, and obviously price had to be as good as low or as good as anybody else's. But the other side of it was dependability and responsiveness. Our group of executives, they would respond, night and day. If somebody needed something, we would be there. And that was one of the things that I just had great respect for them, because they all responded that way. Everybody was customer, whatever they wanted. If they were in an emergency, they'd get taken care of. And I think that and integrity, I think the integrity of an organization is so important. And it shows in many ways how the company develops, and it shows in your organization from the top down.
You've spoken at at great length about this. I know in talking, in hearing your remarks at the Lincoln Academy, and I know that there's a Frank Considine Chair in Ethics, in Applied Ethics in Loyola. With what we're seeing today, what is your advice to today's executives and those on the way up to avoid the problems we're seeing right now?
The advice I would give is just remember that integrity is the hallmark of character and quality, individually and corporately. And executives know when they're going over the edge. They try to be creative. I understand being creative. I think that's one of the priceless ingredients if it's properly used, being creative. But don't do it in such a way as you're attempting to deceive the public. Some of these situations, just out and out misrepresentation. And from an integrity point of view, that's a serious flaw, in my opinion.
As you watch the events of the last few weeks unfold, as someone who worked very hard and very diligently to impress that set of ethics into your business and those of your colleagues at the time, this must hurt a lot to watch this.
I think it's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. Many and most vast majority of the companies have a lot of integrity. Some try to be cute, get overly creative and go over the edge. And look what it's done to our economy is pretty good, but our market is terrible. Went down again another few hundred points today. And I believe that beneath all the values that we have is trust, integrity. And the public has lost trust in the market. And it'll come back. But like everything else, it's exaggerated, and people tend to condemn a whole system for a few. That's human nature to do that. And we're experiencing that right now.
I was talking to James Stewart, who also was honored this year with as well as you. And I asked him about this. This was about the time that, this was during the Lincoln weekend. And I said, well, you covered the great stock market crash and all the scandals of the 1980s with the Ivan Boskis and Michael Milkins and all. We really hadn't had that kind of problem since 1929 when there were so many problems. Why is it we're having this cycle some 15, 20 years later? He said, well, we're just doing more business, we're acting more quickly. The people, the memory seems to be getting a little bit shorter. Do you think that this is all going to work itself out and we'll get back to work?
I think it'll work itself out, but in the meantime, we've lost our way from an ethical point of view. The push for value in stock and in the market, greed and reward, became prominent in everyone's thinking. It was the primary objective to get the stock up and make the money. And I think we lost our way to some extent. And it's going to take some time to come back.
There's a danger in this too, because we are we're the international leader in business. The rest of the world still looks to the United States for leadership in these areas. And it's bad enough that it hurts us, but there are some global implications for this.
You bet there is. Serious global implications. And we'll get through it, but it's terribly unfortunate. The fraud, dishonest, just that simple. And in losing our way, we've lost the trust of the American people.
I want to turn to another aspect of your life. It's, I'm sure, very intertwined with your work in your corporate environment. Many of the executives I've interviewed over the years who have been honored by the Academy feel very deeply that it's not enough to just do well in business, but the company, the community where your community or your company resides, you have to do community service. The community should prosper from your being there as well. And that seems to be something you embraced early on in your life.
Yeah, I do. I believe in being involved in the community, using what skills or position you may have to influence others to help the community. And that's very rewarding. It's rewarding to not only the community but yourself. You feel better about yourself, you feel better about your company when you're involved. I think one of the things, there's a sacrifice in being involved in the community. There are times when you just as soon come home instead of, or prefer to come home, instead of being downtown at a business dinner. So there's a sacrifice, but you should do that. That's part of the job.
Well, you've been engaged in a great many of the economic development organizations, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I believe probably commercial club aspects, groups like that. That's not only good for business, but it's good for the community that business resides in, because everyone ends up prospering from that.
Right.
If you could speak to that kind of engagement and forward thinking, I'm sure you've probably been following the fortunes of the Metropolis 2020 plan.
We bet I have, yeah. Now, there's a study started with the Commercial Club and the Civic Committee of the Commercial Club, which I've been involved in for years. And you take what we're doing at O'Hare right now, it's largely, I spent 15 years pushing the O'Hare expansion. And that's the biggest economic engine that we have in the whole state, and it's being thwarted. It's still going forward, but slowly. But people don't realize the impact that that airport has on our economy and on the individual jobs of everyone in the area. Everyone in the area. And if you don't expand, if you don't keep up, change will pass you by. And the airplanes can just as well fly over Chicago and go to Denver or someplace else. So we spend a lot of time on that. In the whole Metropolis study, the 2020 study, they're looking at intermodal transportation, which is such a, I was thinking about it driving here. And one of the things that's interesting is that in Chicago, for example, where the traffic problems are excessive, the wisdom of our ancestors, our forefathers, built roads on an angle out from the center core. Not just the expressways, but all of these angles. Those arterials can be used and speeded up to take traffic off the expressways. That's one of the things in the transportation segment of the Metropolis study that can work. We have to clean up some of the traffic on the side, maybe widen some of those arterials, but that will take a lot of traffic off the expressways. But I think also in the museum, the Field Museum, Museum of Science and Industry, those are wonderful cultural aspects of our city. That's why people come here and want to work here. Corporate headquarters will stay here. Lyric opera, outstanding. The symphony orchestra, outstanding. And it's incumbent on the business community and business leaders to be involved in the community for the sake of the company and their employees. You should not overlook that.
Well, you're talking about several of the institutions that bring me back here to spend my tourist dollars.
Sure, exactly, yeah.
You've been actively involved with most of those, if not all of those agencies or institutions over the years. I've been really pleased to see what's happened at the field under Sandy Boyd and folks like him and so on.
That's when I was chairman, under Sandy. Yeah.
Oh, what a fantastic institution.
Yeah, it's terrific. And that whole museum campus, one of the big efforts we had was to redirect Lakeshore Drive so that it's all west of Soldier Field and the museums, and create that museum campus in there. That was a big move to get that. We spent a lot of time going to get that done because there's a lot of money involved.
A lot of money, a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of property that has to be.
And it tied in so nicely with the expansion of McCormick Place too, which is a great asset to the city and the state. So I feel very strongly about spending time in the community, and I hope our young people would feel the same way. We've got a generation coming along, and they're going to have the same challenges, the same responsibilities, and I'm confident they'll step up to it. You see young people today wanting to get involved, and I just applaud that.
You have worked in one of your volunteer duties directly related to the future of young people with your time at Loyola and the Board of Trustees as a member and as chairman of that organization. And I will also talk to you about the university hospital system, health system. Back to Loyola, your ties there remain very strong to this day.
Yes.
What drew you back to the institution? It's not just an honorary title to be a member of the board.
Oh, no.
It's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. I felt that I owed a lot to Loyola because of what it made possible for me to do in those years when I was in college. It was, the values were there, the education was there, the flexibility was there, it was in the city, and you could partake, you could be involved in things in the city. So I just felt as an institution, it was obviously the Jesuits are wonderful educators, and it was a wonderful experience for me, and I think that it was a very fortunate thing that I was able to do at that point in my life.
What would you say marked your tenure there at Loyola on the board, as far as where you saw the institution heading and maybe some of the impact you were able to have?
You never like to measure your own impact. Let other people do that, really, as far as I'm concerned. But there are things we were able to accomplish. And I think the medical center, without question, is an outstanding institution for clinical treatment and at the high end of clinical treatment. I believe that they still lead in the state in heart transplants as the number one. And that's kind of a beacon out there. It's in Maywood, First Avenue, Maywood. And for the western suburbs, they've taken in and put in about 18 primary care and some clinical care facilities out in that area, which has expanded our scope significantly. And as a result, the hospital complex at the medical center at the main campus is very, very busy, and doing very well. So that's a part of what I would hope that I could look back on and feel good about. Yeah.
Are they still? I don't know as much about it. I'll admit as I
Sure,
want to.
sure.
Do they do a fair amount of teaching there?
We have the medical school,
Mm-hmm,
yeah, which is and then about 460 members of that faculty who teach and are also the clinicians. The high-end surgery, large in Children's Hospital. The heart program is large and a good one, and the Cancer Institute Cancer Center is fine. So those are things that are building, and they're building now a new outpatient center, because the trend in the industry is to get people out of the hospital and do it on an outpatient basis, and they're building a magnificent new structure out there.
You're still involved there?
Yes, I'm still chairman of the health system. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What is your vision for the health system as we're already in the 21st century? But the next 10 to 15 years down the road, where do you see it going? I know you talked about the decentralization and getting out more into the community.
Yes. We will continue to reach out into the community, and also on the main campus, it will become more of a high-end surgical center and surgical and research center. And I believe that that's where the investment will go to make it succeed in the advanced clinical procedures that are in the offing. New kinds of heart treatments and there's so much going on in medicine today. It's just amazing. And a lot of people are living longer as a result. Yeah.
Adds immeasurably to the length and the quality of life.
Oh, you bet it does, yeah. And they're doing very well. It's well managed, and I think that it's one of the very proud parts of the university.
May I ask also, I know that you've been honored by the Republican Party for your work, for your leadership. One of the examples is up there. I follow politics pretty closely for another part of my job, and I saw your name mentioned here not too long ago.
Yeah.
I know corporate executives try to be very careful about how they involve themselves in these things, but obviously you want to put, when you find something that embraces your values, you want to go and support it. How has your life been working with the Republican Party?
I think it's been fine. I enjoy being involved, and for the right candidate. I have supported other candidates, Democratic candidates too, the right people, and many of them are friends. But the party itself, a lot of good people with good values that I feel comfortable with. And although my name coming up with that, I never thought that I'm surprised it came up.
Well, when I saw it, I thought, well, I remember the talk about ethics and making sure that you were doing everything that you should be and not doing anything that you shouldn't. So I thought, well, that doesn't surprise me that his name came up.
Well, yeah.
I was talking with Judy Barthoff. I won't be using this part of it, but I was talking to Judy. She said, "Never guess whose name came up." She said, "Yeah, I saw that." She said, "Oh, good." I
don't know how it came up, to tell the truth. I was just somebody looking to print something.
Well, unfortunately at this part of the race, the General Assembly's gone home. They're looking.
Right.
You've got a lot of political reporters trying to find ways.
Yeah, you need a story. Yeah.
But I thought it was a good tribute to you.
No, it was nice of them to mention.
I'm wondering, as I know you're still busy, you're still working on a lot of different things. What are the kinds of activities, the kinds of accomplishments that give you the most satisfaction as you look back on them?
Oh, from a satisfaction point of view, I find it hard to say. I don't take much personal satisfaction in getting something done. If it gets done, that's the satisfaction. It's not within me. I like to see things accomplished. I like, particularly if it's going to be helpful to people. But I find it difficult talking about myself and getting any satisfaction. But I love to accomplish things, just for the fun of it. And life is very exciting that way. And there's great opportunities and so much to be done, yet to be done.
We were just talking between tape changes there about how the city of Chicago and the community around it tends to work together very well. This is sort of a city of millions of people, but it's a small town. Could you speak to that aspect?
It is that. It is a small town. It's very cohesive. The business community they're together so frequently on all of the activities of the city, and that's what makes it work. Together with the mayor, who works with the business community very well. And I think one of the things that you have to remember, that the governor, the legislature, all the government departments have to work well with the business community, and the business community has to work well with them. And if they don't, things don't happen like that, the way they should. So Chicago has become known for its cohesiveness. It's also the reason that companies, once they come here, it's hard to get them out. And there are executives whose jobs would change that won't leave the city, and they'll wait for something to develop here, and there's a number of them around, I mean, that just plain like to be here. So it's a good place to raise family. It's the cultural activities amenities are excellent. So, and the business community feels responsible to be helpful in those areas. I think that's the way to say it.
Very good. That's exactly what I was looking for. You've obviously worked with a lot of young people over the years, and you have some thoughts about things that might be helpful for them as they embark on careers.
Yes, I do, and I have some feelings. And let me just say, I think the priceless ingredients for success for young people: drive, creativity, good judgment, and good interpersonal skills. That combination is and one without the other generally won't work. But you must realize that people have to get along with each other, and they have to know how to get along with each other, but yet the other ingredients are priceless. Add to that integrity, humility, and you go a long way. And leadership, of course. Yeah, that wasn't a very good statement there, but I could have.
I thought you did very well, but if you'd like to make another.
No, I just think leadership is important, and you can't have a leader that you don't trust. So integrity is a hallmark of any young person coming along. Let them build their career on that, and then the other priceless ingredients that I talked about.